right, so this is Dave Filoni once again with episode The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. Which obviously people get the reference there, which is super fun if you're a Narnia fan, but I couldn't help myself. I just like the title. And it pretty much sums up the episode pretty clearly. As we get ready to watch, you get one final recap, which are always fun to cut together.
Where is Ahsoka? She coming?
It's complicated.
But you know, getting home is kind of important.
Our primary objective is to escape this galaxy. It matters not whether Ren and Bridge are killed or stranded here.
I have to get down.
A lot of complicated things in that 7th episode. Everybody did a great job bringing that together.
I hope I survived long enough to see the outcome.
It's fun to rewatch these. I honestly haven't watched them in a while. I've been so busy, getting the second season together. So it's fun to kind of go back and revisit these. And here we go. The Jedi, the Witch, and Warlord. I love the music here and how it begins. Just immediately setting the tone. Kevin Kiner really bringing it to a close here with the kind of military might of Thrawn and the organ which we used in Rebels, which he's brought through. The Chimera very faithfully recreated as it was in Rebels with the design Killian Plunkett and I did for the bottom of the ship, showing Thrawn's appreciation for art.
Grand Admiral, the cargo transfer is complete.
Captain Enoch, a character that I've been trying to make a stormtrooper like that for a long time, with this kind of nod to Mordred from Excalibur and the face mask, something that as a kid I was really enchanted by. I thought it was a fantastic helmet, really interesting, and a character that I think needs more to do in the future. So we'll see where that goes in the second season. Thrawn himself was quite a challenge, There are so many blue characters. A lot of the conversation we had was how do we make this blue feel like skin, not like any number of makeups that we've seen. How do we keep a little bit of, skin blood in it? And how much do the eyes glow? Because in the book, and if you look at illustrations, of course, Thrawn originating in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, the first kind of big sequel to Return of the Jedi that my generation of Star Wars fans would be aware of. Thrawn's eyes glow quite a bit, almost kind of burn. And so we try to give him a slight feeling of that. Morgan, here played by Danielle Santo, became a very interesting character, this witch that began in The Mandalorian and has been on this long journey to kind of find herself, find her power, and revitalize her people. We learn how much of her efforts are designed at actually benefiting Dathomir and the tragedy that befell her as a child in the Clone Wars. So a lot of that, of course, is an extra material in Tales of the Empire, the animated series, which came out. That's something I have to deal with quite a bit, is that I tell these stories not just across series and live action, but across media, and for them to have maximum impact, I have to be wary of how much the audience does or doesn't know. So the witches here are a nod to the Night Sister witches that George Lucas had us create for the Clone Wars, and I like giving them this live action treatment, and these characters of great mothers, these ancient witches who have somehow survived on this desolate planet for years and years. Just kind of a fun new villain to have in the live action space, something that we've had in animation and in games for a while. That's one of the great things about having other creative divisions, be it animation, games, publishing, we have all types of creatives coming up with ideas, and so they're almost like test theaters for certain ideas to see what sticks. And the Night Sisters were quite popular when we did them in Clone Wars. And so I thought that they would add some interesting dimension to what we did with villains in this series, this kind of bizarre kind of splinter group of witches that perhaps are using the Force, perhaps not, perhaps it's their own kind of magic that they're wielding.
Oh, Towson. Take it.
But it needs to feel dangerous. It needs to feel dark. It needs to be a threat to our heroes. This sword was one that very much went to Diana and said, what would you like to wield? I'm thinking a sword. What do you think? And she was very interested in having a sword where she could actually put her hand on the back of it and use some different techniques that maybe we hadn't seen in Star Wars before, since we're always lightsabers. So I thought that came out well. As we'll see the end battle here. The final title sequence. Here, I just wanted to contrast the opening of the episode, the darkness, with this kind of more the fun little group, our heroes and their little wayward, notey, simple people. It was really Rick Famuyiwa who directed the episode. He kind of put me to the task of, could we move that scene with Thrawn? Wasn't the beginning. The scene began this way, and he had done an edit where he had moved it to the front, and I think that was very wise, as Rick, can be very wise. And so I thought he had thought something I hadn't, and it was to the benefit of the show. And that's one of the great things about collaborating, is people are bringing their best to this and want it to be the best it can be. And you have to be open-minded and look at all the potential and possibilities. So we found a better way to tell the story and took advantage of it. Huyang's workshop, super fun, incredibly well done here by the team. All the parts, the drawers, every drawer is filled with something, whether we opened it or not. Almost, it's got a great kind of clutter to it, and is a great environment for the puppetry of Huyang. A lot of the time is real articulated puppet by Legacy Effects, but sometimes a CG creation by ILM. The two inform each other, the puppet, especially the computer animation, to make the droid rendered correctly. Like here, that's going to be a computer Huyang, because he's doing a lot more with his arms and things than the puppet could do. But sometimes it's hard to tell which is which should be.
How old are you?
Nice little bit of backstory on Ezra and his mentor here, and the idea of Jedi training and mentoring, and what Huyang's saying is a bit for Sabine's benefit here about the relationship between a master and apprentice. It's always a debate when we're talking about Kanan, a character from Star Wars Rebels, because the old Jedi and the old droids would certainly know him as Caleb Doom, not Kanan. But, for clarity, we tend to keep it as Kanan, though we had recorded David saying both. Just think it's confusing enough for people that don't know that show that a name within a name is going to just be too much, so you keep it simple.
Well done. Looks like you were a good student.
Try to give the blades of the lightsaber a little bit of that shimmer and flicker like the original blades. We did a bit of a cross between the prequel blades and the original trilogy blades to kind of give our sabers a unique look.
What happened between those two? What did I miss?
Ahsoka became afraid that Sabine was training as a Jedi for the wrong reasons.
Again, the fears of Ahsoka and of her mentor, and passing on that type of anger or whatever was volatile about Anakin's training, the idea that
Family?
there was a flaw in the design of her training
At the time, Ahsoka felt
is something that she's very wary of. This anger and these issues that can be troubling for Jedi. And how does a warrior like Sabine deal with that and those feelings? And would she be capable of training her to be successful?
You must be pleased.
It was Rose's idea. I'd staged a lot of scenes with him out on the wing, and she was like, could it be meditating on top of the ship? And I was like, Rick and I thought, absolutely, why not? So it was kind of a fun thing to do. And
So you know.
it's a great idea. Again, the collaboration of the group coming together, understanding how this all needs to kind of fit together was critical, as we're all part of this team making this story come to life.
Never thought I'd see him again.
Again, Sabine,
Might not have.
justifying doing something that maybe is the wrong thing for the right reason. It's a slippery slope, but it's important that she feels bad about it. And she apologizes, which is proper.
Yeah.
And it's different for Ahsoka not to scold her, not to be angry at her
You're not mad?
or disappointed.
Over the years.
And again, you can see my love of wind.
Difficult choices.
Rose got the cloaks here. I was going to see it on her, a little bit on Sabine's hair.
Often no one understood my reasons.
This is, again, not a volume at all. It's just on a backlot, I believe, in front of a blue screen.
That's why. No matter
These
what
are
happens,
plates that are, I believe, generated off photogrammetry,
to be there for you.
which we laid in to give a sense of motion to the ship. It's tough when there's no middle ground between them and what's far away.
Have you
It's
kept
tough
up
to
with
sell
your
that focus, make it believable, but I think they did a very nice job.
I try.
These elegant moments that are a little bit quieter before we get to the second half of the episode will be very action-packed. So it's just something that I like to play with personally and tonally.
Being a Jedi isn't about wielding a lightsaber. It
I
helps,
think that's very true.
especially in our
I
situation.
try to get a lot of things in there that I believe about being a Jedi, about the Force, things that I learned from George. I try to faithfully put those things in the story, and be careful about how much of my own ideas and influence get into this.
Just finished.
Pretty difficult sequence. TIE fighters attacking. Something we've seen quite a bit of. Having to believe the Jedi are distracted so they don't even have an idea this is going to happen or they're detected. And her heroes leaping into action, which is what Jedi's are. They're just going to jump into action.
we've lost the stabilizer.
Nah, that guy really sells that idea.
Just get out of there. Go, go.
I do love the little Noti. It's just a fun little character that they're pretty nonviolent. Yeah, pretty afraid. But they're kind.
You'll only get a short burst out of the engines that way.
More than I need.
Memorable sounds, the TIE fighter lasers. So Star Wars. It was fun developing the voice of the Noti with Sky Sound. Took a lot of iterations, a lot of discovery. Finally, they started coming up with these strange little doo-doo sounds and different things, which I thought really helped give a great character to what they were doing. Real personality to them. It's hard these days not to crash these ships. You have to get them out of the plot, though. So, and they seem to be fairly repairable, most starships that crash. I'm not sure how that works, but, I guess they're more durable than our ships in our world would be. This poor little guy's been dragged into it.
The obvious.
So the best thing the Jedi can do is keep moving and get out of the way.
Only if we let it.
Ahsoka's more determined than maybe she was before. Thrawn's playing a game. It's very tactical. He's trying to stall the Jedi, put enough obstacles in front of Ahsoka that he's going to run out of time more than anything else. He knows how difficult it is to stop Jedi, to actually physically, render them helpless. So here he's trying to throw a lot at her and work the clock as it is to his advantage, knowing what he needs to do to get out of there on time. Part of the strategy was to take a lot of the decisions that a regular Imperial officer would do and not do those things with Thrawn. Have him decide the opposite. Got giant wolves to ride because, of course, even though I enjoy wolves and dogs, so I had to have some big old dogs in this show. Have a lot of personality.
Win battle against the Jedi.
Wanted a different kind of trooper, not just regular stormtroopers, but something that's kind of combining the idea of the witches with the Empire. The gold and the red are colors of the witches, bringing those two things together to make something a bit more occult, a bit more evil than maybe we'd seen with the Empire before. That Thrawn is really thrown in with a group that maybe he wouldn't have thrown in with otherwise. That there's a mutual beneficial relationship here between Thrawn and the witches, that he's made an alliance, an evil alliance, to get what he wants, to get out of there.
Looks like we're just in time.
He's taking the Star Destroyer with him.
Hey, Yang, how's it going?
This fun thing Rick did with the pups here, where the little guy electrocutes himself, reminds me of Jar Jar Binks.
You've kept her in the sky longer than I've been alive.
Right there. I don't think the most technologically savvy little guys, but they're trying to do their best and help Hu Yang.
Any ideas of what we're up against?
Well, I think it's interesting with Amon and Natasha and Rosario, and three characters. They have skills. They're all a little bit different, but they're all also friends and not afraid to take a jab at one another in a joke or barb one another. It doesn't take on too serious a tone. Again, it's establishing a fun adventure, and I think they're all good at maintaining that tone of a Star Wars adventure. This is a tricky sequence. Again, trying to portray things we maybe haven't seen before. Bombarding these Jedi as they're riding these wolves approaching was a new type of scene. Maybe something. There's a bit of the Princess Mononoke when San attacks Iron Town. This sequence, if we're lucky, because that's brilliant. But you gotta think, well, how are they not targeting? And I think as a Jedi, knowing that they see things before they happen, they're just moving ahead of the blasts and sometimes jumping through them like that, keeping this as chaotic as possible. Like the Empire as always is using a weapon that's out of scale with what they're actually fighting. And so, they're not doing themselves any favors. Plus, I don't think they want to obliterate the base of the castle yet, which they're going to get to later. I think it's also a test from Thrawn. He's curious. He's probing. He's, this should work, but it's not going to work. Lars wanted to show a bit of frustration in Thrawn, which I wasn't sure about, but I think he was right. Because for Thrawn, this is becoming, this is all too familiar. They got through. That's a bad thing for him. But he has other cards to play, so he recovers quickly. Just getting right to the action. We had a bit more of a build-up that we cut ahead of this. It was just taking too long. Want to find ways to keep things moving as the series went along, as people, I think, had a better foothold for what this show was, what they're fighting. Sabine, she's not very proficient with the Force, so even wielding a lightsaber, of the three of them, she's not the best at it. That's not true in real life. I think Tasha's quite excellent with a sword, but in the story, Sabine is she's more comfortable with her blasters, and she's got Ezra and Ahsoka who are more capable with lightsabers and the Force. So they're fighting in that way. A bit tandem blaster and lightsaber, a bit of a combination. I think Sabine would mostly defer to using a blaster than a lightsaber. You've got one shining moment in the show where she can wield the Force, but beyond that, even in the future, it's not like she's tapping into that all the time. It's a struggle for her. It just takes her more training, takes her more discipline to do it. Very creepy watching these three do this incantation, which is definitely the same that we used in Clone Wars, the resurrection chant, something the Night Sisters are kind of known for. This reanimation, this controlling somehow these troopers, which have given themselves over to this dark power. Sound design was critical here. To get that these are kind of some kind of undead weird thing we hadn't seen. Zombie stormtroopers, something that I actually put into the EU quite a while ago. The idea of zombies. We had zombies in Clone Wars with Geonosians resurrecting clone troopers. So something that's in the realm of genre and the realm of fantasy. You get witches, you get these kind of strange things. I think it's kind of fun in a Jason and the Argonauts kind of way, and in adventures of, those type of Ray Harryhausen special effects films that I would have grown up watching. Again, Ezra knows that she's not really the most in tune with the Force, so this is really risky what she does, but she gets away with it, and she's able to block some things there. I like to stress the training. I think Jedi training is very valuable. I think it gives, people a great sense of discipline and skill. I think we have to show that more in future work we're doing in Star Wars, the value of training as a Jedi Knight and what it does for people, that the path to that side of the Force is a good one and a powerful one in its own right.
We already.
It's almost a melancholy moment.
The Jedi are
The way Lars plays it.
at this rate, they may get on board the ship, which will be problematic. We require a little more time.
How she feels about this. She has a duty. It's almost like a Jedi thing. There's a bigger thing here. And for once, she doesn't parrot that phrase for the Empire. The Great Mothers kind of seem to be acknowledging this sacrifice Morgan's making as she's quite literally taking their place, stranded here on this planet, even in victory. That was something that we came up, it was not in the script originally, but talking with Diana about her character and the arc and her motivations. We wanted to have this idea that Morgan was working for the witches almost secretly, in a way that Thrawn maybe wasn't even aware of, that, the witches as string pullers and thread of destiny were working to their own ends as much as helping Thrawn. So a secret agenda almost, which is interesting, I find. Setting them up that they're not just servants, but they're their own powerful faction.
Go on, I'll handle this.
We stay together, remember?
You must.
Ahsoka's willing now to make the same sacrifice. Whether she's on that ship or not, it doesn't matter. That the younger two have to go and stop Thrawn, have to prevent him from getting back. So again, she's going to take one for the team here. Probably Morgan would be a bit much for either of them. Ezra would give her a go, but I think she would deal with Ezra. There's Annie doing some of the sword work she wanted to do. Ming Q was our stunt fight coordinator. I thought did a great job. There were so many lightsaber fights to do in this show in such a short amount of time. You know, it's really quite a thing to watch on all our Star Wars shows, and quite proud of the stunts and the action that people are able to bring. I think we see that in a lot of the series, and, you know, but in particular in this one, I thought there was just a heavy weight of fight after fight after fight in every episode. It's a lot of choreography, not just to learn, but to create. And so I thought that the team did a great job. And here's a fight that gets a little more, you know, a little more rough and tumble, a little more hand to hand. So it's different than the other sword fight we're seeing by two masters. Ezra and Sabine are going to try to win their fight by any means necessary. Super fun. This is creepy with the zombie and the screaming. These death troopers, sure made famous in Rogue One, were a great design. I think they've been used quite a bit since. And I thought, well, here, let's do a zombie version. They're just giants and they don't care how much they're punched or hit. This is a good force moment for Sabine, because in this state, she's got no choice but to let go or she's going to die. Ahsoka's had quite a bit of time to train Sabine, both before this show and then abandoning that training. And then now, once the show began again, she's been training her. So she can probably do that force grab, but she's just not as consistent with these things. She can do it, but then she doesn't maintain the focus enough to do it as easily as Ahsoka or Ezra could. Ahsoka's just going to get overwhelmed by the number of opponents she has, so she's forced back into the stairwell to narrow the options of attack from the troopers. I like these images of the Star Destroyer. You know, again, how do you make a Star Destroyer menacing? Again, we've seen quite a bit of them. So I think Thrawn's arrival and his kind of different ship with the gold on it, symbolizing the witches, was kind of a fun attempt at making it new and different.
I can do this.
Takes a lot of timing. This stage, this henge was on the volume. So this is a volume screen you see around them that we were timing with, you know, the movement of the ship.
Ready?
Sabine being very confident here, believing in herself, having had the success of the lightsaber moment, believes she can do this moment. So I think it's very fun the way Amon plays this moment is very Ezra, to just not quite make it there. But of course, the width of this thing, he's able to grab on and be successful. Amon and Natasha vary these characters. I mean, of course, both wonderfully portrayed in Rebels, but, you know, here's just something different. They've got to build on that performance by Taylor Gray and Tia Sakar and make it feel of all one piece, which I think they're fortunate to have the series to study, to kind of bridge the gaps and continue them. That's always a sad moment because I love those lightsabers, but I just didn't see how we could go through this again and not have Ahsoka lose one. I get, you know, lightsabers getting knocked out of the hand is going to happen, but we've done it quite a bit. We did it last time these two fought, so we had to kind of up the game. This was a very enjoyable sword fight, and different with the bladed weapon and the fire versus the lightsaber. Two different kind of weapons clashing.
And you will die here. Alone.
Of course, the master's probably not alone.
Not alone.
With an apprentice. So Sabine kind of forgoes her own quest, gives up her want, lets Ezra go. The important thing was getting him home. It's not about whether they get home. I think Sabine's in the moment here. I think she gets pretty lucky with some of the deflections, to be honest. But that happens. She's in the zone in that moment. She kind of needs to be for her mentor and for Ezra. Oh, always sad to kill a character, but if you gotta go, you gotta go like that.
Morgan is dead.
She has done what was required.
LS, a little nod to Star Wars Rebels and the designation for stormtroopers.
757 here. Copy.
A lot of moving pieces. The visual effects team getting those, looks outside the Star Destroyer to all line up. A lot of things to balance. And get it all done within our time frame.
Want to get out of here?
It's going to be quite a challenge at the end of the day, but find a way. Witches don't seem too happy about that, but we'll see. Again, they have an alliance, but Thrawn wants to win. He's not taking any chances.
Copy that.
A lot of this kind of pacing and shot structure came from the end of Empire Strikes Back, as Vader's trying to capture the Millennium Falcon, the idea of a chase to the finish, except I'm obviously flipping it.
If we catch him?
And the heroes and the villains
Full power to the
in this episode.
now.
For me, this series was always about answering the question of how to get Ezra home and did Thrawn survive. And it was designed to be these two parts of a big story in season 1 and 2. There were just so many things to set up in this season and to establish so many characters. I knew it would take the whole season to figure out a way to get Ezra back and to establish Thrawn.
Today you've been quite worthy about it.
Can you not get me any more power?
I regret we haven't met face to face. Perhaps now we never shall.
In this case, it just acknowledged that Thrawn did have an adventure where he knew Anakin Skywalker, so he would know these things about Ahsoka as he learned things about who her mentor was. I found it interesting that they're never in the same room together, the hero and villain in this show.
The Empire.
And I wanted largely a victory for Thrawn, though he doesn't as of yet know Ezra was on his ship. I wanted some type of victory for him because he is a great villain. What Tim Zahn and publishing came up with is pretty iconic. this type of general character, Grand Admiral character. You know, he was never going to be thwarted in just one season of a show. I couldn't imagine that. So now it's all about these kind of tonal moments which set up a bit of foreshadowing in what's to come for our heroes and for, you know, our villains, as I like to establish the future. Ahsoka and Sabine are kind of stranded here now. In place of Ezra is there with the little notey people, these humble, gentle people who are happy for their part to see them. We have a bit of symbolism, a bit of iconography with an owl coming up, which is a creature that's been in Rebels and a little bit in Clone Wars that foretells things for Ahsoka, a harbinger of what's to come. Signs and things for her to consider as kind of the wizard of this story. And I went to check in with the other villains who weren't really playing a prominent role in this. Shin is, you know, finding her way to the bandits to kind of make her own alliance with them, as she was taught by her mentor to find some kind of power, perhaps dominion over them. We'll see where that leads in the future. Even more importantly is Balin and the journey that he's on, one of this quest, this Crusader Knight's quest to find his faith, to find, you know, what image of God or being of power he might desire. Very abstract, but something that's he's been seeking, the closest he's ever been to. And then a little bit of a taste of Thrawn and the witches as they finally get to this place, this planet called Dathomir, which is where the witches are from in the Clone Wars and the galaxy that we're familiar with. Just villainous clues and tones for the future. What's in these boxes? What does it mean? What's the plan here? And then a bit of symmetry to kind of end as we began, with the shuttle approaching a New Republic ship, in this case, Home One. But Hera, unlike our poor captain in the first episode, comes a bit more prepared. She's not messing around. Ezra, having managed a heroic off-screen escape from the Star Destroyer, perhaps forgets for a moment he's in armor in his excitement to come down and see his old friends. This was an idea literally came up with as we were working on getting ready to shoot it. I talked to John. I said, I think Ezra should be in a stormtrooper outfit. It should be that guy he knocked out right before we don't see him again. And so we got this put together for Amon. And interestingly, this was the first scene that Amon shot as Ezra on the whole season. And I just thought the look they share, that Mary and
Ezra?
Amon just nailed it, for me at least. Who they were in Rebels, you could just see it. And I think the crew felt it. And it's always so abstract to me when we shoot a scene like this so early on, when it should be like one of the last things we shoot. And yet that's kind of the magic of it, I guess. But I just thought, you know, for both of them, they really handled that scene well. And it's a quieter ending. There's no big triumph. There's no big medal ceremony. Maybe it's probably just to me. I don't know. It's got more of a never cry wolf loneliness to the ending, if you know that film. Sometimes it's not about awards and ribbons,
We're almost packed.
but they did the right thing and they helped their friends, and that was what was important.
You did well.
And they're together, which they weren't really in the beginning.
Did I?
They're a master and apprentice now, and it doesn't mean they won't have challenges, but they've made it this far so far. Just something for me with the Jedi. It's not about what they wanted or how they wanted it. It's about achieving something for someone else. They got Ezra home, and that's important. That he needed to get home. He'd been gone so long, and they have each other here, so they're not completely lost.
Ezra is where he needs to be.
And I can always count on Kevin and the music to kind of carry these things through. We've had a collaboration of nearly 20 years now, and he's kind of orchestrated this character's life quite literally, musically. So it was really fun to have him be a part of this. And I don't think Sabine, she doesn't know Anakin, so I don't know why she'd see him. I think that she's not even that,
Felt like
trained or in tune with the Force yet. So it's just shadows to her. She couldn't see him.
nothing. Just shadows in the starlight.
Just a feeling more than anything. But for Ahsoka, I think she knows. And I think now in her life, in the end, there's a presence there that wasn't there before. That she wanted to be there, but it was kept at arm's length because she just couldn't see it, didn't want to see it, didn't want to feel it. But now I think there's been a acceptance there and a healing, and she sees Anakin for who he is, flaws and all. And now her journey is going to have to be to reflect on herself and see herself as the mentor, the teacher that she can truly be. But it's just nice to think, I think, for this character, if you've known her all this time since Clone Wars, that Anakin's still watching over her and is a part of her life. It's just a nice thought to end on. And that's the finale. Wonderful job by Rick. Really appreciate that he took this on. And, I've known Rick since Mando season 1. We're part of that first season alumni group. And it's always great working with him and John and Kathy, Colin, Terry. We've had such a great group. John and Karen, everyone's been there since the beginning. And so it's just been a great creative collaboration. Ro, who just, Rosario, I can't say enough about her becoming Ahsoka, just being Ahsoka. She's so Jedi to me. All these characters just did such a wonderful job. These actors, they were so invested, not just in the show, but in each other and the crew, and really was a wonderful experience beginning to end with the shoot and telling this story. Lars, who I'd worked with in Rebels, is drawn, and, really was fun for us to get to be together, having Thrawn be a live action character. He loved, had no problem being blue all day, which is so fun. And, again, these names, you read these names and you'll see people that have been involved now with these productions since the beginning of Mandalorian, when no one even knew what a Star Wars streaming series was or could be. And it's been quite an experience learning how to produce these seasons and bringing other creative talent on board. Shauna, who I can't say enough about what she did character-wise through costumes, story through costumes. It was a special collaboration. I'm so glad that she was a part of this series because she so loved the animation and loved the animated characters. Just appreciate what she brought to it here. And, the entire team. I enjoy looking at the names and, recognizing so many. Again, if it's something that you want to do, storytelling Star Wars, your name can end up here. And every person here is contributing in ways that are important and significant to the group. When you see all these names, it might feel like it gets overwhelming, or just look how many names, like it's marginalizing what these people do, but they're all giving everything every day, and it takes a lot to make these complicated shows come to life. So, if they're watching, thank you for your hard work. I really appreciate it. I know John appreciates it as well. We love making these shows and continuing the adventures in this galaxy far, far away. Thank you to the crew. For you guys at home, fans, thank you for watching, supporting us all these years. And in Ahsoka's case, the adventure's not yet finished. So until season 2, may the Force be with you.